We now are living near these days, the dreadful days of judgment, the end of the judgment, the end of those years now approaches us. We cannot say to you that which we do not know, lest time will prove us liars. God have said to me that the time has long past due for the executing of the wicked, the enemies, who have misled the whole world of black man, except about 10% of them. So he taught me, night and day in person, for 3 whole long years, and about 4 or 5 months. And he still guides me. He still speaks to me whenever he pleases. Right directly the voice comes to my ear from his mouth, like listen to a word from you whenever he pleases. He have taught me so many signs and so many ways that he can guide me, not by word alone, and not by seeing him in person, but just by hints. And I have learned those hints of various things. The judgment is coming. No, it's not coming, it's here. Why should we have a judgment? Why should people be judged? It is because of an act of an evil one that did not love truth and righteousness and wanted to make a complete people who also did not or would not love truth and righteousness and justice, that they may mislead us in the way of righteousness. And this way, turning the whole nation of the earth, the aboriginal people, the black man, into following them, believing in them in their falsehood. He would be able to carry down at the day of resurrection, day of judgment, most everyone that did not have the knowledge of him. Of them, as I should say, for they are a whole race of people. This people that I am referring to is none other than the white race. They have ruled according to their God, Yahweh, who gave them the knowledge, who made them and taught them how to rule us for the past 6,000 years. This has been done, and they brought us up without the knowledge of ourselves, making us a prey to them in the day of judgment in which we now live. Who will judge the Son of Man? Who is this Son of Man, you may question? He is a man that the Almighty God of the black man's nation made for the purpose of being the judge today.
The judgment on universal corruption. All the nations of the earth are so corrupt with other than good that they cannot come to any agreement on peace with each other, then carry it into practice. The disagreement and corruption today is seen not only in the Christian world of Europe and America, but also in the very heart of the Holy Land in Africa and Asia. Corruption started in Europe, and it has now spread over 9/10 of the population of the world. It has caused the dissatisfaction of nearly 100% of the civilized nations. This dissatisfaction has reached such a percentage that it is bound to bring about universal war, since the corruption is universal. The continuing disagreement between the heads of the nations is referred to as confusion and conflict in the Bible and Holy Quran. In this world of universal corruption and crisis, and the ever-growing threat of universal war, we, the so-called American Negroes, the lost-found members of the tribe of Shabazz, should unite and take our stand on the side of Allah, his religion of peace, and our own nation, the Black people. So, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Happy Monday. Welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward. Continuing our reading of Elijah Muhammad's message to the Black man in America. This chapter is The Judgment on Universal Corruption, pages 265 to 305. 265 to 305. Pages 265 to 305. So the overall tone of this chapter is talking about the judgment, America being judged for its crimes against Black people, and the eventual fall of America due to the judgment of Allah, and due to it being time for America to fall. Elijah Muhammad believes that the white man were created to rule the non-white people for 6,000 years, and their time is up. And because their time is up, America is coming to an end, or the reign of white supremacy, rather, is coming to an end. And that's an urgency for Black people to separate from the white supremacy, separate from white America, separate from America as a whole, create nations within a nation. Because, well, and I'll say this part from in my mind, the separation would be because if America falls and you're dependent upon America, you're going to fall with it. So to survive the fall and even be able to thrive after the fall, you have to have your own if America is to fall. Now, I say this all the time, and I warn against praying for the fall of something that you are attached to. You're also praying for your own downfall. So we got to make decisions on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, especially if we're going to go full steam ahead on going with the ideology of America is coming to an end. All right. So would Black America also come to an end? But should America be judged for its crimes against Black people? Yeah. But also taking into the overall account of how the world actually works. World domination, it's what it is. That's what it always was, and it's what it always is. Domination of the known world. So once again, we can't get caught up into our feelings. We have to get caught up into planning and taking proper action, proper planning, proper action to put ourselves in positions of power, become powerful, become a nation of people, become a people who are not easily oppressed, who are not easily controlled, who are not easily enslaved, who are not easily defeated. In order for the new to come in, the old have to be extinguished. But we have to be powerful enough to extinguish the old so the new can come in and the new can blossom. But that's going to be on us and what we choose to do as a group of people. The information is here, but we have to use the information. All right, so let's jump back into it. It's not, well, let's jump back into it. It's a good chunk of this chapter. It's a good chunk of information that's in here. So the breakup of the old world. According to the changes of civilization by Allah, and its messengers from Moses to this day, and the last messenger, the resurrection and return of the lost and found mentally dead members of the Aboriginal people of Earth, the Black nation. That resurrection is now. Today, we live at the end of the world of people who have ruled the Black man and its various colors between black and white for the last 6,000 years. The world of disbelievers and hypocrites. Now, these are the days and the end of the rule of the white man. I'm referring to the rule of the people mentioned by Jesus, Allah, and the Holy Quran as being a people who are created so that they might be tried and ruling the righteous for the past 6,000 years. For the first 2,000 years were spent in the caves and hillsides of Europe. They suffered divine chastisement for the first 2,000 years on this continent for their troublemaking and for causing war and bloodshed among the original Black people who had not suffered from wars, exploitation, and enslavement before the creation of the people by their father Yaqub. Go read world history. Go read the history of Africa. Go look at the history of Africa. Go look at the history of the world. In order for empires to expand, there has to be conflict. When white men arrived in Africa, they were able to use the tribalism that was already going on between the African tribes to manipulate them against each other. So, you know, I see what he's saying, not taking away the history of the Europeans, the violent history that they do have, because they do have a violent history. But we do have to put things into proper context. When the Europeans arrived in Africa, Africans were already, you know, having conflict and tribalism with each other. Just want to put that context in it. Today, they have filled the earth with their wickedness, and there is 100% dissatisfaction against their continued rule over the nation's Black people. Right. So if you are sick and tired of a people ruling you, and this particular group of people have been ruling you for a significant amount of time. In America, we know over 400 years, over 500 years, we've been under the thumb of white supremacy. So what do you do? What is your next step? How do you get from up under the thumb of the white supremacists who you view as your enemy? You view these people as your enemy. These people historically have dehumanized you in the worst ways. And you are at a place in time in 2024 where you want to do something about it. So the question is, what proper actions do you take? What do we do as a group of people, whether we're a large group or a concentrated group? What do we do as a group of people to help ourselves, to get ourselves out of the situation that we find ourselves in, to get ourselves past the exploitation, the oppression, the depression, the suppression? If racism is a team sport, we have to play like a team. We have to become a team first. That's one of our biggest hurdles is, remember, we have to become a team, and we have to become a competent team. We have to become a team that is that's a formidable opponent, that's a respected opponent, taking proper actions, building ourselves up, taking ourselves serious, getting rid of the vacant esteem, building our individual esteem and our collective esteem, loving ourselves as individuals and loving ourselves as a group of people, and being able to see ourselves and start to exist as a powerful nation of people. Their history shows troublemaking, elimination, and death to all darker people from the far-off lands and mainlands of Asia, as well as the South Seas and the Pacific Atlantic Oceans. All have been touched by their destructive hand and the evil way of civilization, and finally, the bringing of my people to make their destruction sure. Actually, it was the self-elimination for them to have brought our fathers in slavery. This act was charged to them by the divine supreme being as being the most wicked people on earth. Now we see the results of the fight of the ignorant among our people to gain sincere love from a people who have no sincere love among themselves. They have never practiced sincere love according to their own history, war making, robbery, elimination, and exploitation among themselves. This is clear to you who see and understand. The so-called Negro has been made so blind, deaf, and dumb by them that even the intellectual blacks are now blind and seek to make love and friendship with the people of the devil and Satan. And integration, assimilation, looking to find common ground with your enemies, looking to find common ground with the people who you believe are oppressing you, looking to find your comfortable place in the society with the people who you believe are oppressing you, looking to be viewed in favorable light. Remember, this behavior goes back to the plantation. This is not new behavior. This is passed down slave behavior from the plantation, generation to generation to generation. What are you going to do to please master, to get into the good grace, to get into the good graces of master? How can you gain meritorious manumission? How can you gain that? What do I need to do to have them like me? But Elijah Muhammad is saying that is insane, and they will never love you. They will never truly love you. You will be more so a tool, another tool in the toolbox, another tool with a black face that is used to keep their competitors at bay, another method of infiltration. So even the intellectuals, because we've talked about this. I'm a college graduate. I spent a lot of time on college campuses. So I can say this. College has, especially nowadays, college has not taught us how to think, but taught us what to think. And even more so today, they're teaching, well, not even the college, because I see a lot of colleges, college professors are pushing back, but it's not even the professors, the institution, they're pushing to teach you what to feel, not even think anymore. Teaching our children to feel their way through life. Don't think, don't analyze, don't ponder, don't critically think. No, feel your way through. We're going to tell you what to think, and we're going to tell you what to feel. And anything that you come across that's contrary to that, it has to be bad. It has to be pushing against the progression of America, the progression of black and white people and everybody coming together, the BIPOC communities, this rainbow communities, everybody's being colorblind and we're uniting. Yeah, but while all of that is happening, Black America as a whole is getting worse. So is our overall, I guess you could say, our overall quality of life, is our progression worth sacrificing for the idea of a united, colorless America? Is the progression of Black America worth sacrificing for the idea of a colorblind, united America? Y'all tell me what you think in the comments. The day of America's downfall. Allah manifests the fall of America. He desires to make America fall as a warning to her brothers in Europe. White Americans and Germans, Allah has taught me, are the most wicked of the white race. This is what Elijah Muhammad believes. The wicked deeds that have been performed and are still being performed by the white Americans upon the so-called Negroes, who Elijah Muhammad is calling the slaves of the white people, are the worst in the annals of history. They have been clear enough in their wickedness to make the so-called Negro slaves love them, though they are their open enemies and eliminators. Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom be praised forever, now judges the American whites and is causing America's fall and total destruction. Egypt under Pharaoh is an example. It fulfills the signs and other prophecies in the doom of his people as foretold by the prophets from Noah to Jesus. So once again, He's getting at the psychological tricks that have been used, or he believes the psychological tricks that have been used by white America to, while I'm continuing to be your open enemy, I'm partitioning on on the back end for you to join me in brotherhood, hand in hand, and let's spread love all over the country. Let's spread love all over America. So on this end, we're going to talk about brotherhood. We're going to have the front of brotherhood. We're going to have the front of unity, of American unity. And on the other end, we're still dominating you. You're going to have people who represent your community who we're going to deem as your leaders. They're going to speak for you. They're going to speak on your behalf. And then they are going to give credence to it, to the idea of this brotherhood. They're going to validate it. They're going to say, this is what Black Americans want. This is what Black Americans need. It's kind of like, basically like what the Democrats are doing. Get the so-called influencers, get the so-called leaders behind these ideas of this pseudo love that America is giving Black America. Because you talk about love on one end, but show us the actions behind the love. There's one thing to say, I love this person, but it's another thing to show that person love, for love to be in your actions. If you're talking about unity, you're talking about brotherhood, but on the other end, there's still clear domination. It's still clear domination on the other end, what we're talking about. So, he's saying, don't fall for the tricks. Don't fall for the tricks. The worst thing we can do is continue to fall for the idea of brotherhood, the idea of unity, the idea of America being one, the idea of people of color being accepted into the American society. Well, why are we still called people of color? Why do we still have to have a need to be called a people of color? The idea of racism don't go away just because you want it. Out of that idea came historical actions that reshaped the world. You can't apologize that away. You can't idealize that away. It's going to take actual actions. It's going to take actions. The same as it took actions to create the world that we have today, it's going to take actions to change this world and replace this with the system of justice. Today, America is trying against her will to give the so-called Negro civil rights. For the first time since the Black man has been here, America falsely offers him social equality in certain parts of the country. This social equality consists mostly of permitting the Black American race to mix openly with the white man and his woman. The actual idea, however, is to grant the so-called Negro social equality among the lower class of whites. This is done so that the scriptures wherein the prophecies that the white man attempts to corrupt the so-called Negroes with his women might be fulfilled. The so-called Negro is the prey of the white men of America, being held firmly in the white man's power, along with 2 million Indians who must be redeemed at this time and will be if the so-called Negro turns to his Redeemer. The problem of the American Black man is his unwillingness to be separated from his 400-year-old enemies. The problem, therefore, is harder to solve, especially with the enemy trying to fascinate the Negro with his lower class girls and women arraying them partly nude before the Negroes, every public news medium. So the problem between these two people separating and dignifying the so-called Negroes so they may be accepted and respected as equals or superiors to other nations must be solved. This is God's promise to the so-called Negro. To the so-called Negro. This promise was made through the mouths of the prophets that he would separate us from the enemies, dignify us, and make us the masters after this wicked race has been judged and destroyed by its own evils. But as I said, the solving of this problem, which means the redemption of the Negro, is hard to do since he loves his enemies. Bam. And that's the problem. We've been conditioned to love those who are our oppressors, and we hate ourselves. We're quicker to bang on ourselves than we are on white people. We're quicker to condemn ourselves than we are to white people. By golly, when I tell you racism is a team sport, it is a team sport, and deception is not against the rules. As a group of people, what shall you do to win? As a group of people, what shall you do to become dominant? Look at what the Chinese are doing. The Chinese are just waiting on white America to fall. The Chinese are not trying to become friends with white Americans. The Chinese are not trying to assimilate into white America en masse. They may send their people over, get information, knowledge, and resources, and bring it back to empower themselves to become a more powerful group of people. We cannot find group power within another group of people. But there are a lot of us who are not even concerned with group power because they are more concerned with their individual survival. If your individual survival is more of a concern than group power, then I'm not even talking to you. We're not even on the same page. It's nothing for us to talk about. It's nothing for us to say. You don't get it. You're not even trying to get it. You don't want to get it. We hear the statements of Black educational, political, and Christian classes which express their love for the white man, publicly asking to be his brothers, if not his brothers-in-law. Now, this class wants to make it clear to the world that they really love the white race and not the black race. This means that they want to be white instead of black. The devils have made them hate black. They reject the thought of black ever being the ruler or equal to the ruler. They ask boldly for inferiority, not only for themselves, but for their people, because they have learned their place, going back to the miseducation of the Negro. The Negro has been conditioned to know their place. That's why the Negro, you don't even have to tell him to go to the back door. Even if there's no back door, he will go create one for himself because he's been conditioned to know his place. The psychological effects that have happened to us are real. The field of Black psychology is a godsend, so we can better understand what has happened to us, why this happened to us, right? And steps that we need to take to reverse what has happened to us. If we don't get into that, we don't take care of that, we're going to be some lost puppies out here. It's over for us. OVER. It's already a steep hill to climb. Let's stop. Like one of my homies said, the only way to get out of a hole is to stop digging. But we keep damn digging and digging and digging and digging and digging. So at what point are we going to concentrate on ourselves and build ourselves up and make sure that we are good? Let's just stop talking. Our value should not be dependent upon how white people see us. Our value should not be dependent upon how white people view us. Our value should not be dependent upon what white people think about us. The value of the Black man in America is dependent upon what we do for ourselves. The value of Black people, the value of Black people in America is dependent upon how we see ourselves and what we do for ourselves. That's how we create value for ourselves. It's not dependent upon how other people see us or what other people think about us. But we have to get past the vacant esteem. We have to get past the need for white zaddy's approval. You got to get past that. You got to change the program. They want to absorb themselves and their kind, especially the so-called American Negroes, into the race of white people, thus ending the Black race. So Elijah Muhammad believes that they're a group of people, bourgeois Negroes, who heads are so far up white Americas, but that that's all they can see, smell, taste, and hear, whiteness. And they are willing to burn this whole thing down to get to what they want. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed within the Black community too. We have a good number of people who are willing to burn this whole thing down to get their individual wants. Rugged individuals, right? So those people, we're talking about the fall of America, right? Talking about America getting what is owed. Those people who attach themselves so greatly to America, when America falls, oh man, they're going to get crushed. They're getting crushed. If America is over, the Negroes who have assimilated themselves into white America, you are over as well. And so this is page 273. America is falling. Her doom is sealed. I compare the fall of America with the fall of ancient Babylon. Her wickedness is the same as history shows of ancient Babylon. And that when, they do call America Babylon. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her palms, so she may be healed. What are the sins of ancient Babylon? According to history, she was rich, she was proud, and her riches increased her corruption. She had every merchandise that the nations wanted or demanded. Her ships carried her merchandise to the ports of every nation. She was a drunkard. Wine and strong drinks were in her daily practice. She was filled with adultery and elimination. She persecuted and eliminated the people of God. She eliminated the saints and prophets of Allah. Hate and filthiness, gambling, sports, and every evil as you practice in America were practiced in Babylon. Only America is modern and much worse. Ancient Babylon was destroyed by her neighboring nations. I warn you to let their destruction serve as a warning for America. This people has gone to the limit in doing evil as God dealt with ancient people. So will he deal with the modern Babylon, or will he deal with America? Because America is Babylon. Babylon! I just had to do that. I know people be doing that, but I just had to do that. As God says, Son of man, when the land sinneth against me by trespassing grievously, then will I stretch out mine hand upon it, and will break the staff of bread thereof, and will send famine upon it, and will cut off man and beast from it. And that's in Ezekiel 14:13. So he's predicting the fall of a lot of people are predicting the fall of America, the fall of Western civilization, due to what we view as the corruption of America, what we view as the degeneration of America, what America has become, how degenerate America has become, how just unhinged we've become. We see how backwards our society is getting, how worse our society is getting in some ways and better in some ways. So it's interesting. Now, I've been hearing that for a while, that, Babylon is coming to an end, America is falling, America is coming to an end. But once again, let's make sure we separate and create our own nation within our nation before America falls, if that's truly what you believe. If you truly believe America's going to fall, the question is, you going to stay attached and fall with it? The resurrection of our people, page 278. The old world must be removed to make way for the new world. There is a universal struggle being waged by the old world against the beginning of the new world. Will the old world's opposition prevent the establishment of the new world? According to recorded history, the efforts being made by the old world against the beginning of the new world will fail, as did former opponents of Allah. According to the history of Noah, the people ridiculed the very thought of Allah bringing a flood to drown them. Noah was laughed at and scorned for practicing such a doctrine. According to the Bible and Holy Quran, he was called a liar and looked upon as a crazy person. Some of the members of Noah's family joined the mockers and disbelievers of Allah and his messengers, who was Noah. They also meant the same fate of the others who were disbelievers. They met the same fate. So they were washed away in the flood. The opposition of that world to the advent of a better world was a total failure. So shall it be with those today who oppose the beginning of the new world of righteousness. In the time of Abraham and his nephew Lot, before the birth of Ishmael and Isaac, Abraham's two sons, the people, mockers, and haters of truth and righteousness in that part of the world, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, had become victimized by every imaginable evil. And I would translate that into today's time in replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, like we went back and talked about in the compensatory code. When we replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice, what will that look like? What does that look like? Right? How can we effectively replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice? What does justice look like for Black people in America? Right? That's a great question that we should be thinking about. What is justice for Black people in America? What is equality? Is justice and equality just being treated fair and being treated the same as white people? Having the same opportunities as white people? Are white people the bar? Are white people the standard that we're trying to meet, that we're trying to attain, that we're trying to compare ourselves to? Is whiteness the standard? Because if whiteness is the standard that we are trying to either compare ourselves to or eclipse, then I think we still don't get it. Whiteness should not be anywhere on the radar other than something that we are not, something that we're trying to separate ourselves from as far as white supremacy, right? We should only be looking at whiteness in the form of white supremacy that we're trying to separate ourselves from, not something that is a standard of human achievement, a standard of human living. So I think we need to stop talking about equality in the sense of being equal to white people and talking about what do we need to do to become a group of powerful people, building a powerful nation rather than building an equitable society. Because that's the, I work in HIV/AIDS, man. And that's what they be talking about all the time. How can we build an equitable society? How can we be this? Because they look at, they put everybody who's non-white on one level and white people on another level. And all these non-white people are just so harmoniously intertwined. And we're all working to either be on the same level as white supremacy. And racism is a team sport. All these other people, look, don't fall for it. Don't fall for the non-white inclusive group of people who seem to be all working together. No. Are there individuals in these groups who are cool and we can rock with for us? Yeah. But for the most part, we're talking about whole populations, whole groups, whole races of people. You can't let these few individuals who might rock with us don't speak for the race of people. So let's not be fooled, because let's look at the actions of the other races of people. When we are in need, nobody's coming to our aid. Nobody's done it yet. Why are you talking freedom, justice, and equality if you do not like to be separated from the people on whom you and your fathers are dependent? Do you think that an independent nation is going to make you its equal while you will not accept your own responsibility to provide for your own? Can you blame America for rejecting you as her equal when you are going to the extreme of trying to force her to accept you instead of forcing yourself and your people to be independent? You have disgraced yourself and still are trying to force yourself upon your slave master's children so that they will continue to support you in the necessities of your existence. In this way, you are telling the world that you are too lazy to go for self. Allah and I want you to be free of such childish thinking like men and accept responsibility. Oh, you got to be responsible to be free. You got to be responsible to be free. And you got to be willing to give up your comfort. You got to be willing to give up your so-called comfort or your idealistic comfort within white America to become free. Because when you become free, you got to do for self totally everything. from the ground up, from infrastructure on up, from the dirty jobs to the glamorous jobs. You got to be willing to do them all. But even before we get to that, we got to be willing to unite. We have to get united. We have to change our program. We have to get codified. Code of conduct, uniting under a code of conduct and moving forward. Putting together proper plans. Doing for self, being for self. It's not going to happen for us. White America will not just wake up one day and say, you know what? We don't want to do this no more. No, white supremacists don't work like that. If so, we wouldn't be in the situation we in, right? So if they had to take our freedom, we got to take it back. This last part is called the hereafter. We all look forward to a hereafter, to seeing and living under a ruler and a government of righteousness after the destruction of unrighteousness. Even the people of the man of sin, the devils, are worried, disgusted, dissatisfied with their own world and wish to see a change to a better world. But they desire to be the ruler in that world, or they desire to be the ruler in that better world. The hereafter, some believe, will be after the great war of Armageddon or the Holy War. The religious war between the two great religions of the earth and their believers, namely Islam and Christianity. Of course, Buddhism will also be involved. You don't even acknowledge Judaism. That's funny. The hereafter, there the righteous will make unlimited progress. Peace, joy, and happiness will have no end. War will be forgiven. Disagreement will have no place in the hereafter. The present brotherhood of Islam is typical of the life in the hereafter. The difference is that the brotherhood in the hereafter will enjoy the spirit of gladness and happiness forever in the presence of Allah. The earth, the general atmosphere, will produce such a change that the people will think it is the new earth. It will be the heaven of the righteous forever. No sickness, no hospitals, no insane asylums, no gambling, no cursing, no swearing will be seen or heard in that life. Fear, grief, and sorrow will stop on this side as a proof. Every one of us who accepts the religion of Islam and follows what God has revealed to me will begin enjoying the above life here. My translation would be, if you want to enjoy a hereafter, if you want to have a hereafter, if you want to even conceive of a hereafter being possible, we got to put in work. We got to be willing to get our hands dirty. We got to be willing to build. We got to be willing to come together. We have to be willing to love. We have to be willing to sacrifice. We have to become a team. We have to become a group of people. Racism is a team sport. How are we going to play? How are we going to approach this game that we're in, this competition that we're in? Yeah, we didn't ask to be a part of this competition, but damn it, we in this competition. So what are we going to do to be different? What are we going to do to get victory, to gain victory? To no longer be victims, to go from victims to victors. Say it with me. We're no longer victims because we are now victors. And in order to become a victim, we have to stop wallowing in victimhood. We have to stop accepting victimhood. Yes, we were victimized, but we will not remain victims because we want a hereafter. We want a hereafter. Okay, you want a hereafter? So what you going to do to get the hereafter? Because hereafters don't just pop up because you said, I want a hereafter. I want the world to be better. I want life to be better. So how you going to make it better? In the real world, you get what you work for. You get what you make happen. You don't work for it. You don't make it happen. It doesn't happen. This is not a movie. It's not a movie at all. All right, so that's the second to the last chapter, the judgment, pages 265 to pages 305. So the last chapter in this book, the last chapter is the answer to the critics. And we're going to get into that. That's the last one we're going to read. That is pages 306 to, what is it? 306 to 341. Answer to critics. 306 to 341. Answer to Critics. It's the last chapter of this book. And then, you know, so next week will be the last video on Message to the Black Man in America. So, you know, after that, I'm going to put up the poll to see what book we're going to read next. We made it to the end. We made it. So, you know, then I give my overall assessment of everything that's come from this. We've learned a lot. We've learned a lot from reading this book. Definitely learned a lot. Definitely something that you can have in your collection. So, let's continue to read. Let's continue to apply what we read. Let's apply what we read to actually make our communities better, to make our individual lives better, right? So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, support. Please support what we got going on over here on the Show of the Giants. Let's get these views up. Let's continue to run these views up to get this channel going. Let's get these subs up. Let's keep going. I want to build this channel. I want this channel to be a force for the Black community. All right. And so let's stay tuned. Make sure you catch the next video coming up. Let's keep reading. Let's keep growing. Let's keep getting better. Let's put ourselves in a position to win. We're not victims. We're victors, and we will win. Love you all. Make sure y'all catch the next video.